It's Rick. Today I sent him to the moon with no help from orbit and no way to return sooner than in 3 hours when we come back for him. He has a light spacesuit with no real reserve of heat or power. In his backpack there is an oxygen tank, a simple solar panel, a multi-tool, a spare carbon dioxide filter, and a water condenser. It collects moisture from his breath. He has no sealed shelter and no protection from dust. The lunar surface is dry, hostile, and perfectly silent. There is no air and no motion. The sun hangs in one spot in the sky because a lunar day lasts almost a month and the shadow doesn't move for hours. It's easy to go mad here from the silence and the overly even light.
20 minutes later, the suit overheats. Outside, it's scorching. Inside, it's humid. Moisture pools in the helmet, sweat runs under his clothing, and then just sits there, with nowhere to evaporate. His pulse climbs and the cooling system can't keep up. The battery delivers too little energy. Rick turns his back to the light to cut the heat, but humidity rises and his breathing turns choppy. Pressure in the helmet stays stable, but he's already uncomfortable. He feels his skin under the suit go sticky.
Rick switches on the condenser. After a few minutes, several drops gather in the reservoir. He drinks them through a tube without even swallowing. He just holds them in his mouth. The taste is sour and plasticky. The cooling shuts down. The power is not enough. Rick tries not to move. Any motion is heat. It is breathing. It is resource spent. After 40 minutes, he steps into the crater's shade. The cooling system isn't coping, so he chooses the shadow. The temperature falls almost instantly. The suit begins to creak from contraction. Rick takes a step and feels himself slow down and lose control of his movement. Lunar dust clings to his legs. It sticks like flour in a vacuum and can't be shaken off.
Now the task is to get warm, but on the moon that's impossible to do with air. There isn't any. All heat streams into space by thermal radiation, and unless you make heat artificially, the body cools. Rick sits on a rock and presses his hands to his chest to keep the warmth in. The helmet hums. The ventilation system runs at the limit. His breathing is heavy. Rick tastes metal in his mouth from excess carbon dioxide. He opens the filter cover and inserts the spare. His hands shake and his fingers move poorly. Rick tries to pull moisture with the condenser, but sand in the joints jams the connections. To keep his warmth and not freeze completely, he decides to move. He carefully heads toward the solar panel to check the charge and change the tilt angle. But in this terrain, it's easy to get lost. Tracks in the dust repeat, and compasses do not work. The moon has no magnetic field of its own. The sun doesn't move, and gravity is 6 times weaker than on Earth. Rick hardly feels weight, yet every motion is hard because the suit is clumsy and heavy. Rick sits down in the dust. It bites into the suit's folds and packs into every gap.
Rick activates the communications. The button clicks, but all he hears back is his own breathing. No hiss, not even static. He says his name, requests evacuation, repeats his coordinates. No answer. The helmet grows stifling. The pressure is stable, but inside it's almost a sauna. Rick wipes the visor with his shoulder, but it fogs again. His head begins to ache, tightening like a band around the skull. A bit more than an hour remains. Rick looks up, but he no longer sees Earth. He climbs out of the shadow and returns to the solar panel. It remained in the light on the crater rim. Output rises a little. Rick enables cooling and immediately begins to freeze. Inside the suit, it drops below 15 degrees. He moves his legs to drive the blood. A fine shiver runs through his body. His feet go numb. The gloves are wet inside. They no longer flex. Rick tries to bend his fingers and feels a cramp in his hand. He sits, keeping his hand to his chest as if that makes it warmer. He sits still and just looks at the dust. His lips are dry and cracked. About 40 minutes remain. Rick stands, takes a step, and falls. Slowly, like water. Gravity softens the fall, but doesn't give him strength to stand. He lies curled. Under his back there is warmth, in his fingers there is cold. He tries to turn over, but the suit gets in the way. Stars are in the sky, and Earth is black. It seems to move. It's an illusion. Rick feels weakness like after illness. His thoughts blur. He remembers why he is here, then instantly forgets. The air inside is already sticky, and Rick triggers the emergency ventilation. The system gives a short impulse, but the valve sticks. He tries to wire the panel directly, but his hand slips and the glove tears an inner seam. Dust gets into the gap. He clamps it with his other hand, but oxygen is already escaping faster. His lungs burn and Rick starts coughing. Each exhale takes effort. He doesn't know how much is left. The display flickers and freezes. Rick just breathes, short and fast. Rick is already thinking about death, but a black dot appears above the horizon, a rescue craft. It slowly approaches and opens the hatch. Rick doesn't move, but he is alive. Oxygen is almost at zero and his hands don't respond. The experiment is over, but Rick no longer hears. Support him. Subscribe.